Okay, perfect. So we're going to start this morning lying on your back. So if you want to find a comfortable position, lying on your spine, you can lie down with your legs straight out, or if you prefer, with those feet flat, knees bent inwards, so that you get that little bit of a support for your lower back. I'm really cold. I'm going to keep my socks on. It's freezing this morning, but we'll take them off when we start to move. But just finding that little bit of support for your spine, and just allowing your whole back to really sink into the mats. Maybe the hands are just rested onto the belly, eyes can close. And then just start to breathe, filling up that belly. And as you exhale, just allow the belly to drop into the spine. So we just find a few rounds of belly breath. Belly rising, belly falling. Imagine that belly like a balloon. I always go to a red balloon, I'm not quite sure why, but that balloon that fills up as you inhale, and as you exhale, it's like someone squeezing the balloon gently to press the air out. So in through the nose, out through the mouth. Avoid the chest, nothing there, but all into the belly. You might sigh or even yawn out. Good signs that our body is dropping into that calm parasympathetic state. Maybe it's already been a bit of a morning for you. Or maybe it's been a bit of a week that you need to let go of. So just grounding through your breath, coming back to yourself. I'm going to take a few little movements gently first, because I want to do some activation this morning. So we just need a little baseline test of where our body's at. So if your feet aren't already on the mats, just bring the feet flat, knees bent. Arms can be down by your sides. And we're just going to take a little gentle bridge. So we'll keep it dynamic and moving to warm us up as well. So arms are going to lift overhead as we start to press into the feet, squeeze the bottom, lift the hips up and up to the sky, arms up and over. And as we exhale, we'll lower those arms down and lower the hips down. So first of all, just concentrating on trying to get that movement to sink together, the hips lifting as the arms go overhead. We'll breathe in as we do that. And as we exhale, we'll lower everything back down, trying to sync up those movements. And just notice where you feel things in your bridge, or maybe you don't feel much at all, and that's okay. So just noticing what is working. Maybe you feel tension in the face, it could be anywhere. So really do just take notice. It could be your ankles. I've really just noticed the fronts of my feet there working. And just notice what's going on there. Any tension in the shoulders as the arms go up and overhead. So just make it one or two more rounds of the floating upwards with the bridge, floating back downwards with the hands as you lower. And then next time, leave the hands by your sides as you lift the hips this time. And then we're going to just try and lift one leg. Now that might not be ideal for you right now, we're not that warm. So just see, by taking the weight, you might just hover the leg. You might be able to bring the knee into the chest a little bit more. You might be able to straighten it, but just notice, again, what's working, what happens. Does your hips dip down? Mine definitely do. And then place that foot back down. So we're not looking for perfection, we're just noticing. Okay, a little bit easier on the other side for me. So lift the other leg. Just noticing what's working, what's not, what's dipping, what's lifting, what's maybe firing too much. Lower the leg back down, slowly lower those hips to the mats. And then just hug the knees in, give them a bit of a squeeze. And we'll just take a little rock side to side. Let's just have a little massage of that back. And then take the hands on the knees. We'll just take a few more warming up movements before we get into some activation. So just moving knees in opposite directions, circling, warming through the spine, a little bit of massage, hips warming and Gaining some movement, circle the knees in opposite directions again, reverse those circles. Beautiful. And then you might just bring the hands on the knees and circle the knees in the same direction round, so we get a bit of a drop to one side of the pelvis then the other. Then you can reverse your circles back the other way. And then bring the feet slightly wide so that they land just at the edges of the mat, and just rock the knees one side, drop the head to the opposite side. Get that windscreen wiper going so that we rotate and look one way, swap, rotate, look the other. So we get nice little rock through the whole spine. Remembering our rotations, our rocking sensations are really good to calm the nervous system. Keep the breath steady, keep finding it into the belly. And then just gather those knees back up together, give them a little squeeze. And without coming up, we're going to just take a little rock along the spine. So it's quite a small rock and roll. We're not coming up onto our bottoms, we're just rocking on the spine. And then just land the feet back down to the mat, so the feet are flat. So we're going to activate our diaphragm, our hip flexors and our glutes, because we use them all together, everything works together. So our diaphragm is that upside down Y, remember? So we've got the sternum, the chest plate, we're going to go down through the sternum and then just the very edges of our rib cage. So start by massaging. You might just get a little gentle few fingertips in there, or gently with the knuckles onto the top of the sternum, not on the squishy bit of the throat, but just underneath, onto the hard bit of the bone. Have a little press side to side, even you'll feel just gently on the rib cages each side there, as the ribs attach into the sternum. Maybe get into those little portions, or stay dead center, but work your way down. If there's bits that feels tight, then we know that that part needs a little bit of loosening and releasing. If it's really sore, use the breath. Can help you with letting go of that tension in there. Work your way through as we get down to the center. Just be careful as you get to the very center of the sternum, as it lowers into the rib cage. There's a little round ball underneath, and it's called your zippy sternum. So it's a tiny little pea-shaped size ball. Don't press on that, but come either side of that. So if you ever notice that and think, oh, that feels a bit yucky, don't press, that's fine, but just don't press it hard, and come off it either side. And then you're going to work into the rib cage. Good to know it's there though, because some people have said to me before, what is this? I'm like, oh no, it's normal. We all have one. So just working the edge of those rib cages. You might even put your fingertips into the rib cage and almost pull apart. Obviously that won't go very far. We don't want to totally pull your rib cages apart, but just hook the fingertips in and hold and press outwards to the outside of the body. So we just get a little bit of opening in there. And then release that activation. Just take a few rounds of belly breath. So hands on the belly again. Just noticing as you inhale and exhale if there's been a shift there for you, for your diaphragm, for your belly breathing. Diaphragmatic breath. In through nose, out through mouth. Perhaps it's easier to avoid the chest. Perhaps it feels like a deeper, slower, longer breath. Or anything else that you notice. Then we're going to find our belly button, and we're going to find our hip bone, and we're going about halfway in between. And then we're going to press in there for our psoas muscle, our hip flexor muscle, and it can feel quite tender and it can feel quite sore. So just have a massage around. If you're not sure, find your belly button, pop your fists right underneath each side of the belly button and have a wiggle, and you'll feel both at once. But otherwise try and do one at a time if you can. Just use those fingertips to get in. And if you're pressing in, just notice, for me, I've got a shooting pain on the top right underneath my right rib cage. So not where I'm pressing, but definitely in line with that, coming across the body. So we get all these connections inside with all the soft tissue, the fascia, and we can be releasing it by somewhere else completely in the body when we're working in one area. So just noticing, you might feel it through the back of the body, you might feel it just where you're pressing, you might feel it down the leg or into the hip crease a little bit more. So if you haven't already, swap sides, so belly button, hip bone going halfway in between. And have a little feel into that side. And just notice any difference. There's no right or wrong again, as always, with yoga. We're simply noticing, never trying to kind of label or, especially not negatively, something bad or worse. It's if we can try and change that, the wording to different, could be more intense, and that's okay. And then when you finish, just hands on belly, find that belly breath again. Again, you might notice a little extra release, a little bit extra space for the breath. And then we're going to find our glute points to activate. So use your fists and just place them underneath the head. So we're resting the back of the head onto the fists. And then you can have a little wriggle around, and you'll notice that then your knuckles just dig into that occipital ridge, it's called. So just the ridge at the back base of the skull, where all the muscles kind of come up from the neck and join into the skull. And you'll feel that it might feel a bit tight, a little bit lumpy and bumpy. So just work your way from the center out towards and underneath the ears nearly. So we'll just work at that diagonal line as we come out, and just noticing again if points feel really sore, we know that they need a bit more attention. If there's nothing there at all, great, carry on, move along. As you get to the outside edge, your head might rest back on the floor, and you're just pressing into the base of the skull at the outside edges, nearer the ears. And then we're going to get those points that are underneath the ear. So we're going to go use our fingertip, our index finger, place it underneath our ear onto the jaw, and we're pressing forwards into the jaw here. And then we give that a little wriggle, and that might feel quite yucky. So just breathe, know that it probably will be uncomfortable and that is okay, but working gently within your own pain tolerance, and just work your way down that little line of the jaw. Before we get to the angle, you'll notice we drop into an angle that goes underneath our chin. We don't need that bit, we're just on that straight line that comes straight down from under the ear. So make sure you do both sides. If you're not screwing up your face, you're probably not in the right spot. Always give me a little shout if you're not sure where. If you are thinking, this is yucky, then you are probably on it. Have a little work through, and it's making me tickly throat this morning. And then release. So then again, hands on belly, just take a couple of belly breaths, just notice any shifts in the body. And then land the feet flat if they're not already, knees bent, and we'll come back into our bridge. So we'll start with just those dynamic bridges again, hands down by sides, chin tucked into chest, head resting on the mat. So big inhale, press into feet, lift the hips, arms come up and over, just noticing how that feels, lifting into the bridge. If you notice any different muscles engaging, slowly lowering back down. Maybe we'll lift and hold this time, so arms can go overhead, and we'll just stay in the bridge. Have a little feel into the muscles. Can definitely feel my glutes actually working here. So the hip bridge is actually called the hip bridge because we want the glutes to fire, not necessarily our thighs, which tend to want to take over. Or earlier I felt my feet, so just noticing where you're feeling that, noticing what's different. And then we'll lower down slowly, pelvis lowering, arms coming back overhead to land onto the mats. And then we'll lift one more time, so lifting up through to that bridge. Arms can stay down this time, and we'll lift the leg again. So just noticing how that feels to lift the leg. So obviously we've engaged the hip flexor now, hopefully, so it might be a bit easier to lift the leg. Hopefully the glutes are a bit more stable and we're not dropping through the hips. Just noticing any difference. Nice. And then slowly lowering back down. And then hugging those knees into the chest, kind of wide as if they would fit under the armpit. Just take a little rock side to side with the knees a little bit wide. And then hands under the backs of the knees wide. We're going to take a rock and roll with our legs a little bit wide and wild. So kind of rocking, rolling, knees slightly wide if you've got space. If you don't have space, keep them tucked towards each other. A few rock and rolls. And as we come up, we'll see if we can balance on our sit bones. Feet slightly wide, hands just under the knees, lift tall through the crown of the head. we're in that kind of half boat pose. You might be able to release the hands. You might be able to reach the arms wide. Breathe. You might bring the knees together, squeezing them. 3, 2, and release. I think I'm ready to take my socks off now. A little bit of warmth happened there, so that's nice. So coming up to stand when you're ready. I'm going to remove my layers. And grab a drink. So finding the front of your mat. And we'll just come through some sun salutations. So feet, big toes nice and close or touching, and spread the rest of the toes, just ground through the feet, little gap between the heels, little softness to the knees, squeeze the bottom, shoulders down and back, palms can face in for that Ashtanga variation, or open if we want to open through the chest and arms. Just find parallel chin to floor, eyes closed. Take a moment to feel into those feet, energetically plugging in through our feet, through the soles. Imagining we have those 3 prongs, 2 if we're in Europe, if we're lucky enough, with USA maybe. So just imagine we're plugging those feet into the earth, where we can draw down, ground into the earth, but we can equally draw up from the earth. Draw that energy up through the spine, through the crown of the head. And if you want to, we're going to take a super slow sun salutation. Maybe you want to try with your eyes closed. So we'll move so slowly and gently. So just thinking about sweeping the arms wide, palms can touch. Just offering a different experience with those eyes closed as we feel into each movement. Gently, carefully diving forwards into forward fold. If you're at home, check you're not going to dive into something. I know we might not have so much space. Inhale, long, flat back. Fingertips on the floor or hands on the shins. Crown of the head reaching long. And then exhale, find the floor with the hands. Drop the head down. Forward fold. So we can walk our feet back first to our plank as we've maybe got eyes closed, keeping it super simple, dropping knees, chest and chin, or dropping the knees down and hovering down to the mats. Inhale, peel the chest back, carefully lifting to cobra as we lower the chest, tuck the toes, press the hips to the heels, and then lift the hips up to find down dog. So we'll stay in that down dog for a few breaths. So you might just pedal the heels as we're not potentially that warm through the backs of the legs. You might just keep the knees bent and press backwards into your down dog and breathe to find that warmth. Keeping the eyes closed, head dangling, belly breathing. One more breath. Look between the hands, even with your eyes shut. And then walk those feet to the hands, maybe we're stepping in if that feels okay. Come to the halfway lift. And exhale, fold all the way down. Sweep the arms wide enough as we stand. Looking up with the head if we can with those eyes closed, palms touch. And exhale, release the hands. Keep the eyes closed, find mountain pose, replug into the floor with the feet. Gently blinking open the eyes if you manage to do that, eyes closed. Well done. So we'll go again with eyes open, maybe a little bit faster. Sweep the arms, palms touch on the inhale, and as we exhale, diving forwards, tipping from your hips. Inhale, long, flat back. And exhale to fold. Walk, step or jump back if you feel ready to plank and hover down. Maybe knees lower, maybe they don't. Inhale, lift, up dog or cobra. Exhale, press back to down dog. So if you need to, again, still pedal through the heels this time in the down dog, or we just find some stillness. Or another option, you might lift right up onto the toes, drop the heels to the right, pivot them, and then press back into bent knees. So we get a lovely little twist through the body. And if you've twisted the heels to one side, pivot them over to the other side. For bend into the knees, press backwards. Oh, it's a good stretch under my armpits. And then bring the heels back to center. Keep breathing wherever you are through your down dog. And then look between the hands. Bend the knees, walk, step, or jump in, come to that halfway lift. And exhale, forward fold. Sweep the arms wide and up, palms touch. And exhale to release. Beautiful. So we'll go Surya Namaskar B, Sun Salutation B. Sit the bottom back. Sweep arms either forwards or all the way up to the sky. Shoulders are down the back of the body. Belly tucked in. Tailbone pointing down. Find your belly breath. As you exhale, fold forwards. Inhale, long, flat back. And exhale to fold. So walking, stepping or jumping if you're going to jump. Land in Chaturanga if you're stepping back. Plank, then lower down. Cobra or up dog, so those knees lifted perhaps. Press back, hips to heels or hips high to down dog. Left foot 45 degrees. Bring that right foot through, give it some help if you need. Press into those feet, sweep the arms. We're in our warrior one, so squaring off to that front edge of the mat, bending into that front knee. We're going to stay for a couple of breaths. Eye gaze fixed, not only for our balance, but to focus our mind. Beautiful. And then frame that front foot and step it back or give it help to come back to find your plank, hovering down, knees or no. Inhale, lift to cobra or up dog, and you can always press back or lift those hips. Straight up to down dog, right foot 45, left foot comes through, give it some help. Press into those feet, sweep the arms. Beautiful, guys. Turn towards that front edge of your mat. Squared hips, squared shoulders. And breathe. Drishti fixed on something that's not moving. And frame that front foot, step it back, hovering down as you exhale. Inhale to lift the chest and exhale to press it back. So just let that head dangle heavy here. Pressing those hips up and back, spreading the shoulder blades away from one another. Maybe even spreading the toes across the mat as well. Fingertips should be spread, lots of space wherever we can find space in the body. One more breath. And then look between the hands, bend the knees, walk, step or jump those feet in, come to the halfway lift. And exhale, fold. Sit the bottom back, sweep the arms either forwards or up, tucking that tailbone under. We're going to stay for 2 more breaths in our chair pose. Beautiful. One more breath. And then release the feet, release the hands, roll the shoulders. Just bring those hands around behind, clasp the hands open through the chest. Little lift of the chest. You can squeeze the bottom, lift the hips. The hands might be right close to the bottom or there might be a little gap. Just opening through the front body. And gently, carefully release. Just take a moment to stand back in your mountain pose. So this time bring your feet hip distance apart. Spread the toes, shoulders round, not round, back. And just long tall through the spine. So just close the eyes, check in with the body. And just again noticing, what can you feel after our warm up? Do we feel an engagement through our glutes from our activation? What's going on? We're going to take a little bit of nadi tapping or energy channel tapping, or lots of different names for it. We can also think about it as a bit of lymph flow as well, because we'll hit all the major lymph points as we go. So using fingertips, a bit like rain, you're going to start on the top of your head, patting the top of your head like it's raining, gentle patting of the fingertips. Move around so you kind of circle around the whole top of the head, and then come onto the forehead and gently across the temples, across the top of the eyebrows, gently obviously across the eyeballs, but really important to stimulate those eyes very carefully. You might just take 1 or 2 fingers. And then the cheekbones, a little bit more vigorous there. Underneath the nose, we've got those sinus points there, side of the cheek, side of the jaw, top of the lips, bottom of the chin, under the throat, on the front of the throat, that might feel a bit weird, into the centre of the chest, across the top of the collarbones, and this might be where you have to swap sides, so you're going to swap one hand across the top of the shoulder, across the top of the arm, down the arm, top of the hand, underneath the hand, back underneath the arm, underneath the armpit, across the top of the chest, across the other arm, down the top of the arm, back of the hand, top of the hand, inner arm, under the armpit. And then we're going to go chest, belly, top of belly, middle of belly, lower belly, hip creases, hip bones, side of the hips, front of the thighs. So we can use the hands quite wide now so we get as much space as possible. We're going down the thighs, top of the knees, gently over those kneecaps, top of the shin, front of the shins, top of the feet. Then you're going to pick one foot up underneath the sole of the feet, and then other foot underneath the sole of that foot. Hope you're all making lots of noise like I am. Back to the Achilles, then here, back of the calves, back of the knees, back of the thighs, bottom as we come up, lower back, carefully, gently on the lower back. Standing up gently as we hit as high up the lower back we can reach. Can't really reach the upper back, so we will come back. So, someone has a good idea. Top of the upper back, top of shoulders. Back of the head gently. Back of the neck gently. Base of the skull. And let it all go. So just close the eyes, standing with those feet hip distance again, and just noticing how that makes you feel. Hopefully a little energized. Feel a bit out of breath, weirdly, like I've just run or something. So just noticing any shift internally. Maybe feel quite happy. I don't know about anyone else. You can always tell me afterwards. Good. So where we are, feet hip distance apart, hands on the hips, squeeze the shoulders back, open through the chest. And we'll tip from the hips, folding forwards into our forward fold. So we're going to hook on those peace fingers to our big toes, make a little circle with the thumb, drawing elbows wide. If you can't do that, we're grabbing hold of those calves or shins and lowering down if that feels more comfortable than holding onto feet. Otherwise, we're working that crown of the head towards the floor. We're using the upper back to open, draw down. So breathing when we get there, long sighing releases, letting go. Untuck fingers and toes, come to the halfway, left hands are on the hips. As you exhale, come all the way up to stand, release the shoulders and give those shoulders a roll. So we'll just take triangle pose, so right foot at the top of your mat, left foot's going to step back kind of 3/4 of our mat. And we're opening out shoulders and hips to the long edge of our mats. Arms are long, we're going to send the left hip backwards, we're going to reach forwards and tip over that front leg as we bring the hand on the inside of the leg. And then we'll reach the other arm up towards the sky so we get that nice long line. So we can even be up here, we don't need to be low in our triangle. So whatever feels good for you. It's really about opening this left side body. So you should feel the stretch through there. We might turn, so remembering if neck doesn't feel comfortable, we lift that left ear to the sky first, lift it up, and then we turn the head to look up. And that should take the pressure out of the neck. Or we can keep looking down, eye gaze to the bottom hand. One more breath here. Use that top arm, reach yourself up through center, and then we'll pivot the feet, so we'll swap sides. So our left foot is the front foot, right foot just slightly turned in. Open out to the long edge with the hips and the shoulders. Send the right hip backwards, lean forward over that left leg, then tip down, arms come to that one long line. So imagining we're squeezing between two panes of glass, tucking our tailbones right underneath. Breathing. And again, we lift the ear first. So that lengthens the right side of our neck, and then we can rotate. We're not crushing and squishing the neck if we want to look up. One more breath here. And then use that right arm to reach back up through center. We're going to pivot the feet, turn around to the front of our mat, big step back in. Mountain pose. Beautiful. So you're going to take a short step back with the left foot, so right foot staying forward, very short step back with that left foot. And we're keeping those hips square to the front edge. So we can find either our wrists, our forearms, our elbows behind for a bit of reverse bind there, or reverse prayer down, or reverse prayer with those fingertips pointing up. So keep the hips nice and square as we fold over that front leg. So we're coming to that flat back first, so just long through the crown of the head, find that kind of 90 degrees flat back. If there's a little bit more, then we're folding further over that front leg, keeping the spine long, drawing that chin towards the shin. Drishti will be the front big toe. And find your belly breath. One more breath here. As you inhale next time, lift through the crown of the head, come through center, keep the arms where they are, pivot the feet, keep those hips nice and square, and then we're folding forwards over that left foot. So right foot's just slightly turned out, but we're keeping both sitting bones as if we can press them back evenly. And then we can fold that bit further from our 90 degrees if there's a little bit more to explore over that front leg. So it's our pyramid pose. Belly breathing. One more breath. And then take an inhale to lift. Gently release the arms as you come back to your center or your front of your mat. Give those arms, those shoulders a roll, and release. So we're going to take our wide-legged fold. So if you've got space to take those feet nice and wide, toes are turning in slightly or at least 90 degrees with those feet. Hands can come to the hips. Take a big squeeze of those elbows behind you, chest open, maybe even a little lift if it feels good. Open that front body, and as we exhale, we'll tip from the hips, folding forwards. And we can bring those hands to rest if they reach. We can always grab opposite elbow if that feels better. So if those hands reach the floor, press the hands into the floor and draw the elbows towards one another, kind of 90 degrees. And eventually the head would reach the floor as well. That's where it's aiming, doesn't matter if it's nowhere near. We're pressing it down. So upper back really active, drawing that head down. Backs of legs getting nice. Stretch here, lifting those sit bones up high. You can always bend the knees or soft bend if you need. And just make sure there's some weight through the front of the feet, not just all into the heels. One more breath here. Press into the hands, come up just halfway for a moment. We're going to go back down. So this time we're going to grab the outsides of the legs. We can slide the hands down as we lower, or we can hook our fingers onto those big toes, like we did in our normal forward fold, our feet together forward fold, and then we're drawing the elbows wide. So option just to hold the outsides of the ankles, the shins, or use those big toes to hook onto. Find the breath here. And then gently release the bind. We're going to have a little walk over to one side today. So we're going to walk round to the right side. Just turn the right toes out. And as you do that, lift the left toes off the floor. So you might bend into that right knee and you might be supported. You might be a bit higher even, or you might be actually even lower. So just feeling into that, however that feels for you, staying wherever you need to go. And then we'll walk over to the left foot, left toes are turned out, right toes start to lift, we're on the right heel. So just working between the two. It might be that you're literally going, bending one knee, almost keeping the feet flat, bending the other knee. So just walking side to side. It might be nice and high like this, or it might be coming really low down as we come into each side, bending the knee. We might even take a little twist and open here. So have a feel into moving side to side. How does that feel for you? Where do you want to go? Do you want to hold, or do you want to keep the motion moving between? You might even come to the full version where we lift the hands away from the floor and we're hovering side to side, but that might not work for knees or other parts. So only going where you feel good. So just make it one more turn to the right side and one more turn to the left, bent knee. And then we'll walk back through center and we'll just heel toe those feet in. So we come to a normal forward fold, feet together or close, and drop the head down. And we're going to sit back into our chair pose from here. So bring the hands to the heart center and sit yourself into your chair. So just check you can see your toes in front of your knees, hands to the heart, and we'll take a little twist here. So we're going to take, I'm not going to mirror you because I don't know if your cameras are flipped, so I'm going to say which side to go. Doesn't really matter, but we'll go left elbow to right knee first, and we'll twist the heart towards the hands. So we're really trying to turn into that twist, and just check the knees haven't shifted and one isn't pulling back. Just look back down if you need to. And then maybe if we want more, we're spreading those wings wide, arms wide for the twist, or we're keeping the hands pressed together. Beautiful. One more breath here. On the next exhale, lift the hips, drop the hands and head to the center. Just come back through center. Forward fold. Then we'll sit the bottom back. Hands come to heart center as we sit back into our chair pose. Legs might be feeling it now. Let's twist the other way. Elbow to the outside of that knee, really press in. Turn the body. Check in with the knees. Have they moved, shuffled? Spread the arms wide. Breathe, smile. It's Sunday. One more breath. And lift the hips and drop the head down. This time with those arms, wrap them around the backs of the calves. So we're holding on. We're grabbing the Achilles, wrapping the forearms into the calves and dropping the head down. So just notice the difference when we do a really tucked in forward fold. Belly's right on those thighs. One more breath. Release the hands, release the calves. Just walk the hands slightly forwards and we'll take a little bit of crow practice. So we're going to lift up onto our toes. Feet will be hip distance apart and we'll bring those knees into the armpits if they can reach with your flexibility. That may or may not work. So this is our full version of crow. If we're going there, we're taking the weight forwards. That might be enough. Or we're starting to lift one foot or both. We're keeping the chin and chest lifted. We're not looking down or looking back. That's when we might go. You can always have a pillow in front of you. Other option is elbows squeezed inside those knees, pressing those elbows and knees wide, hands land, around the upper back, push the floor away, lift the hips and start to lean forward, and that might be again enough, or we're thinking about hovering one foot, maybe both, having a little play into our crow. Beautiful. So have one more go, whichever option you're taking. If you need to circle the wrists in between, give them a little circle. Lovely. Awesome. So just thinking about taking weight as well. Yes. Great. And then sit into your yogi squat or onto your bottom with your soles of your feet together into butterfly, and we'll just take some circles of those wrists. So just release the wrists by interlacing the hands. It's kind of a little, I feel like I'm a lightsaber moment, you know, giving that a little swish side to side with the wrists. Give them a shake, interlace and make a big wave through the wrists and hands. See if your coordination works for you to wave the other way. Yeah, nice. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. A little stretch away and give those wrists a shake, and then we'll sit down onto our bottoms, bring the legs out straight and just ground through the sit bones. Just remove any fleshy parts if you need to. Lift tall through the crown of the head, chest tall, shoulders down and back, and rest the hands by the sides so that the elbows are soft, so we're not shoulders by ears, where we really can release. Try and lift the heels away from the floor, squeeze through the thighs, spread the toes wide, heels are lifted. So Dandasana, a little L shape, breathing. Sweep the arms up, the heels might land as we fold forwards, tipping from the hips. Float the hands down wherever you get to, whether that's the shins or over those feet. And start to draw into that fold. So our chin, aiming for our shins. Breathe. Keep finding those belly breaths. Each exhale might just let you go that little bit further. And then just walk back in and up. So bring the right knee in and let's take it out wide. So we'll take Janu. So we're just trying to find those sit bones again, knee nice and wide, toes pulled back, lift tall through the crown of the head, and we're folding forward. So you might take your hand over the opposite side of the leg or the foot and wrap round so that we keep those shoulders nice and square, or you might just be rested here or here to fold over that front leg. So we're going to breathe. One more breath here. Gently and carefully coming up, we're going to take a twist. So take your left hand to your right knee and lift tall as you turn. So hand to the bent leg, that's it. Turning towards the bent leg. Little twist through the spine. We might look behind us if it feels okay. Don't forget the long leg, pull the toes back, keep that foot working and engaged. And as we gently come halfway back through center, so we're facing between our bent leg and our straight leg, we're going to drop our shoulder towards our straight leg. So it might be that we hold the ankle, or we hook onto the big toes, or we hold the top of the foot. And then our other arm's coming up and over. So we get that nice C shape, that kind of side bend. Beautiful. So this arm might feel a bit redundant, unless you can reach all the way over and grab hold of that toe as well. You can always place it just behind the head and support, so we're encouraging that right shoulder back, that right elbow back to look up almost. Breathe. And then gently, carefully release the hand, come back up through center. So we'll take the left leg in front, lift through the hips, kick and swap, or just swap those legs over and drop that left foot in, knee wide. And again, just shuffle the sit bones, ground through the sit bones, pull the right toes back, lift tall, and we're folding over that front straight leg. So as we fold, drawing in, we might even, whilst we're there, hook our fingers between our toes, spread them, have a little play with our feet, try and get some space between those toes. Toe space is my new best friends. Always something you can wear at night time to keep those toes spread, stop any bunion formation or stop that getting any worse. Gently and carefully coming back up. So we're twisting, taking our hand to our bent leg, lifting tall, turning, maybe looking behind us with the eye gaze or just to the side of the head. One more breath. And then gently coming halfway back through center, dropping the shoulder towards our straight leg. Again, we might hold on to the shin or hook onto the big toes. Left arm up and over to get that nice side bend. Opening the side body. Probably a similar feeling to our triangle pose. Breathing. One more breath. Gently and carefully releasing the arm. Reach up with that left arm first. And then bring the soles of the feet together, hands behind, and we're going to lift the hips first. So we're going to lift the chest and then lift the hips off the ground in our little butterfly, and then we can lower our hips back down. And then we can use the thumbs to open the soles of the feet up a book. So we're drawing those feet wide, squeezing the knees down, and then lift nice and tall through the chest. And we might fold forwards if we want more. If we're already feeling plenty, we're going to stay exactly where we are. So taking a breath. Imagine that chin will land in front of the feet, even if it feels a long way off from now. Use each exhale to draw you that little bit further. And then gently and carefully coming up. So we're going to take a few more postures, but they're going to be a bit slow and static. So if you do want to grab any layers as we start to slow it down, you can grab your socks and any jumpers for now. I'm going to lie onto our, actually we're going to sit back into a child's pose. So if you bring your knees wide and your feet together, we're coming into child's pose with the wide legs. If you want a little bit more, we're going to go into frog pose. So you might choose to do this sideways so that you can use your mat for the insides of the knees. So knees are going to be wide, toes close or touching. And this might be our wide-legged child's pose. Just here, we can rest the head onto the backs of our hands. We can make a little pile of fists and rest the head here. Pillows, cushions, all welcome here. We could even have something under our belly to lie onto. So anything you've got that might work as a prop is welcome. We're gonna, if we want a little bit more, come to squash frog. So we're bringing the feet wide and the feet are flexed at 90 degrees. The knees and ankles are in line and we're pushing the hips back. I'm all in black so you probably can't see very well. The hips are in line with the knees and then the feet are at 90 degrees. So we might rest onto the floor, onto a prop, a pillow, a cushion. And this can be super intense. I have the best yoga poker face, so don't believe it if it looks like I'm fine here. This is intense. There is a lot of tension in the inner thighs and hips. And you might not even be able to get the knees that wide apart, and that is fine. So just finding the position that you can stay in. Obviously any extra padding under the knees to make this part feel comfortable is welcome. But just finding somewhere where you can sit into this and take a few breaths. So by sitting into the discomfort perhaps, we're practicing to find our belly breath, take control of that feeling that might not be the most comfortable in the world. But can we breathe through it? Can we surrender to it, let go of any tension there? Can we choose to be with the discomfort and be okay with it? Such good practice for off the mat as well as on our mats, as yoga always is. So keeping that breath slow and steady. And if you find your breath is racing, then you're too far in. You need to back out of the posture slightly so that we're not causing so much stress in the body. So when you are ready to release, there's no lovely nice way of getting out of this. So our hands are going to come underneath our shoulders. We're going to do a little mini press up probably. Bring the toes close if they're not already together and just wriggle those knees in gently and carefully. So we'll sit ourselves onto our bottoms and just bring the feet wide so that we can take a little gentle windscreen wiper after being there for a little while. So our squashed frog pose, great one for those hips. And we're going to do another hip release, this time the outside of the hip and the front, that was for the inside. So we're going to drop the right foot and we might come to kind of this hurdler position. So right leg is making a nice straight line at the front of our mats, back leg sweeping round. So we can stay here and we could just prop ourselves here. Otherwise hands come in front, we're going to roll up and walk our left leg behind us and lengthen that leg away as if we were in the splits with our left leg, our right foot quite close to our right hand if possible. Try not to let it drop right into the groin, but it will want to. So in our pigeon pose. So we can stay upright We might grab our pillows again, place them under our chest as we lower down, or we can just come to elbows. We can rest our chin into our hands, or we can rest the head onto the backs of hands or a little stack of fists. So again, trying to choose a spot we can stay in and breathe in. Trying to be with your breath, keep it long and steady. So we're going to think about coming out now. So just gently walking your hands back in and under. And roll onto that, the bent knee side onto that hip. So just roll yourself back. So we can swing that back leg round to the front. And the right leg, the front leg's going to swing round behind. So now we're in our kind of hurdling position again. Or we're going to take that right leg back. So we're in that kind of splits position with the right leg. So we're getting a stretch down the hip flexor with that right leg. Front of our hip and our glute of our left leg, back of our hip. So we can come into pigeon pose on that side. We might be back down on forearms. This side might be totally different. So just notice, you might have to stay up. You might be able to go down a lot lower. So just notice where you can go and just check that foot doesn't roll all the way into the groin, but trying to keep it a little bit closer to 90 degrees. It won't, I don't think it's possible to be at 90. I've not seen anyone yet, but maybe it is. But we're aiming it towards 90. And as always, we can always aim something there. It doesn't have to be there. Close to. So just finding that breath again, slowing it down. Gently and carefully starting to walk your way back up. So rolling on to that bottom again and bring those legs around to the front. You can sit onto the sit bones and just hug the knees into the chest, give them a little squeeze, sit up nice and tall. And you might take a few little rock and rolls, tucking the chin in, lowering through the spine, keeping the spine rounded. If you have space, make sure you have space behind you. Or you might just lie yourself down super slowly onto the mat and land ready for your Shavasana. So if there's anything you might need here, any props underneath the knees, any blankets, any warm clothes, now is the time to find those. If there's any final movements you might like to take, obviously you can add that in now. Maybe you're ready to simply land yourself onto the mat. So we'll just stay with those eyes closed, tuning into the body after its practice this morning. Or if you're doing this again on a replay, then whatever time of day it is, just tuning back in and noticing what parts of the body are speaking to you now, or perhaps what parts feel more relaxed. And if the mind starts to wander, just gently bring it to your breath. Maybe you have that balloon again filling up in the belly on the inhale, and relaxing on the exhale, letting go. As we're approaching that full moon, good time to release, forgive or let go. So just fill up that belly on your inhale. Imagine as you fill it up, you're placing inside anything you need to release, let go of. And as you exhale, that balloon just starts to float away. As you continue to breathe, you just watch that balloon floating away overhead, up into the sky. Just noticing how much smaller it gets as it drifts off into the distance. You might even choose to fill up another balloon with anything you need to release. And as you exhale, almost blow it away. Each exhale might have that little gently pursed lips, that feeling of warmth as the air presses out through the lips, and that gentle sound of releasing with a little bit of force to just push your balloon away. Blow it away on the wind. You're welcome to stay exactly where you are. Stay in Shavasana. If you'd like to, we're going to do some humming to close the practice. So if we lose you on the live recording, carry on humming or staying in Shavasana. We're going to do some long, the word is going to be hum. So we're going to take our inhale, fill up as normal, and the word will be hum. And that was about a tenth of what I could do, humming it all the way out. So you'll notice it's a really long, super gentle, long, slow exhale with that long hum. I'm going to do 16, so I'll count you through it. If I lose you guys on the recording, then carry on. Big inhale, big exhale to release the breath, and then inhaling to hum. return to normal. Notice any shifts inside you. Maybe just holding on to that sense of peace and calm, tranquility. Humming can bring super soothing for our nervous system. And it slows our breath down, in turn relaxing our mind and our body. Humming and chanting is also great for the vagus nerve, because at the end of the day that regulates our nervous system. Maybe just gently start to bring awareness back to your body. Take a deeper inhale, side out, let it go. Maybe circle ankles, circle the wrists. Find some movement into the body, maybe take a full body stretch, or start to hug the knees into the chest. And rolling on to whichever side you feel called to, just take a moment curled in a ball and just tell yourself one thing you're grateful to yourself for. Gently, carefully, working your way up to a seated position. We'll just close the practice with a couple of breaths together and one on. It's just taking a big deep inhale, filling up. Side out, let it go. Inhale deeply. Exhale completely. Inhaling to Om. May my thoughts be clear and calm. May my words be truthful and kind. And may my heart be open to give and receive all the love in the universe. Namaste.